If there's one thing I fear at this planet, it's Horde. What the hell is Horde, you may be asking? Well, they are the cursed sacklings that cause trouble and mayhem during a race. They're creepy as hell just looking at them. By the way, my name is Chris, and I work for Team America. I'd like to tell you about a cursed copy of Little Big Planet Karting I came across once. It was the weirdest things I've ever seen. For most of you who have heard of the game, let me tell you what the game is legit a parody of Mario Kart because it uses weapons that are similar to those games. Anyways, the real story behind Little Big Planet Karting is the fact that it's a video game released in the year where the world is supposed to end. Sackboy ventures through the forest to save the Little Big Planet from the creatures called Hordes. However, as I said, I came across a cursed copy of this game. There is even this story. One day I retired from Team America because a piece of crap terrorists won't even get out of my head. I wish I could describe of what the terrorists look like, but I killed them all and stuffed them in my basement. What sounded a little dark, doesn't it? Well, I apologize for the inconvenience. Anyways, I was at home watching a really weird commercial involving James Sand and Tom Hanks eating a breakfast taco while playing on their PS5, which hadn't been released yet. It wasn't until I got a knock on the door, and when I opened it, I was greeted by a crappy little girl who asked me, "Hey, can you take me to Toys R Us?" She repeated 6 times before I slammed the door on her foot. I told her to get the hell out of my property. She cried while running away. What a jerk. The next day, I went to this flea market, which was odd in my case. I met this fortune teller named Cynthia, telling me that in the future, I'd be the vice president of the United States. I went back to check on the video game section, where it had a good collection. While I was browsing for the games, I met this familiar person named Richard Begg, who told me about this so-called Mario Kart ripoff starring Sackboy from Big Little Planet. I took a look at the cover of the game, and it didn't look normal. The concept of the case with Sackboy driving what looked to be like a head of a groundskeeper Willie. Is this the copy of Little Big Planet Karting personalized? I asked Richard, and he said that it was a secret to his boss, that if I entered the secret walls in the level of Egg Carton, then I was somehow able to lead to a secret room that had people such as Colonel Dodo, Mr. Director, Lazarus, Marmite, Rap Rats, Asia Artino, and John Clyde. They told me that they have weird condolences with this game. They never really explained the condolences that they had, but I brought up the game for a good view. I checked the mail and I noticed that I owe Team America about $103 for something. So I put the game in my PS3 and sat back. Instead of the original opening cutscene where all the people were in the traffic jam, it was just a commercial for Six Flags. But once I realized that the advertisement ended, my six popped out of the TV saying, "Six Flags, more fun," before heading back to the TV. I was then introduced to the tutorial, but however, the narrator sounded like Captain Quack from Ratchet and Clank. I then did the tutorial and went on to my first game. However, things were a little bit off about the first part though. Next to the queen were red and yellow M&Ms. They kept on interrupting the queen because all they didn't sign was a petition to be in the game. Then Sackboy Joe took out a weapon and shot them and melted them into chocolate, and then the race began. However, instead of creepy hordes, they were just members of Big Time Rush. What? Why the heck would they be in the game? Before I got the chance to finish line for the first lap, I got stopped by the grumpy old troll from Dora the Explorer. He sang his usual song telling me to solve his riddle. The riddle was just a simple math question. I answered it and continued off. Obviously, it was the other racers who weren't distracted, and I ended up being 8th place by the end of that race. F that troll. I went back to my pod to calm down for that silly riddle. I hoped that the grumpy old troll wouldn't come back and make me solve more of his riddles. 1 minute into relaxing, I saw a bunch of people in my pod, including Barry Scott and the instruments from the Hunchback of Notre Dame, the PG Tips, Monkey, Key, Luca Barcy, Mr. Parks, and Jenny the Foxworth. They told me that they would protect me from that troll and assassinating him, of course. A few levels later, I went to the Monster Islands, which was the second world. Instead of Ray the Wander Turtle, who was the original owner, I was instead greeted by Hilda. During the first level, the pufferfish was just in the clones of Peck Flex. Once I finished the last level of the Monster Islands, they showed a cutscene of River Van Peter Timmons launching an atomic bomb into the next world, which was Victoria Laboratory. And then I was automatically sent to the Progress Eruption. Dawn undoubtedly would have have had a friend beside him named Detective Johnson for some reason. John was just speaking English instead of his usual gibberish accent. However, there were only 2 levels that could be played, such as the Zeppelin's Rule, Best Before Date, and then I was introduced to another cutscene. This was another involved Hilda launching a nuke to Eve's Asylum and Space Baz. I got to the final level of the game, and it was basically the same thing with all the other stuff, but in different worlds. The things about this level, instead, they were usual trash the monster. It was just a honey monster from the UK. Once I had defeated the trash monsters and Durst Maniacs, I was greeted to what seemed to be like Star Butterfly. I presumed that it was just the trash monster's wife. I defeated them both, and there was one more cutscene at the game. This time it cut to the big time rush of members having a relationship with the fiance of Tackerton's from the cricket of the hearth. I took the game out of my PS3 and went back to the flea market refund. I slammed the disc into my counter while yelling, "What the hell is that shit?" Richard Bagg then turned around and found around telling me that I didn't protect the worms in Eve's Asylum, and then I told him that Eve's Asylum got bombed. He then believed me and that it was kidnapped by Bill Skies, but for some odd reason, I went to this daycare, which involved both men and women. They were all flying crap would people be doing in here. I met some familiar looking people such as Baldrick, Superintendent Chalmers, Sully, Frank Coughdrops, and even others. I noticed that there was brought along with the axe with me on the trip, so I bailed myself with it, and the others were so happy I could never experience like that. I took my PS3 and then stuffed it in the closet so I could avoid it for a few months. The next day, I got a knock from my door, was greeted by Kim Jong II, who is for some reason alive. He told me that I have 6 days to return her the $103 bill. My money was in the bathroom, so when I got up there, I met this girl who was using my bathtub without permission. I said hello, and then she replied with, "I am the bathtub." I grabbed my money and paid it to Kim. This is why I'm scared of Horton of recent. Now if you excuse me, there's business I gotta deal with. The end. Alrighty. And that, my little pretties, was Little Big Planet Karting Curse Copy. I guess you can say, a Little Big Planet creepypasta. I guess you can kind of say that. I really don't know. Written by Ashley Armbruster. Ashley Armbruster, I want to thank you so much for writing this story. Thank you for sending it to me. So, I'm going to begin explaining what the hell is this. Oh, I'm just laughing because it was just so funny. Now, I did have to read this a few times because it was just really silly. Like, despite the fact that this story, I know it's a funny pasta and it's not meant to take seriously, but, you know, it didn't really make a whole lot of sense. If you get what I'm coming from, it did not make a whole lot of sense. But, you know, I'm going to say right now that most funny pastas really don't tend to make a whole lot of sense. And that is something I can definitely say, is that not a lot of funny pastas do make a whole lot of sense when it comes to this kind of stuff. You know, I could see, you know, right now that every creepypasta has to make like a whole lot of sense. Like excuse me, sorry about that. I don't know why I keep burping, but I do. But like, you know, when it comes to funny pastas, not every funny pasta has to make a whole lot of sense, which I could definitely understand and get it why. But this story, though, it was just flat out amazing, with the fact that, you know, it was honestly crazy. You know, this protagonist is like playing the game, and then they get like weird stuff happening, like the grumpy old troll, and oh my god, this story was absolutely amazing. I have to say, the story was pretty good in describe with, you know, with the whole concept and the whole game, you know, just going all over the place. It's obviously very believable, and I'm gonna definitely be honest that it is believable in regards to that. So that's definitely something I can definitely say with that. So I'm definitely gonna have to say that this story was actually pretty interesting. Although I can see this, you know, somewhat happening, but at the same time, they probably wouldn't do that because, you know, of how silly it was and how crazy it is. Despite the fact that this one didn't really have much of a plot to it, it's still pretty amazing and enjoyable. I do actually find some of the most parts of the story to be absolutely amazing. I do have to say, Ashley Armbruster, this story was pretty interesting. Regards to the fact that even though this funny pasta didn't make a whole lot of sense, not all pastas have to make a whole lot of sense, or even funny pastas for that matter. Not every single one has to make like a whole lot of sense. But in this matter though, it's actually pretty interesting regards to that. So I definitely have to say, this story was actually really amazing, really well done. But also, even though it didn't have much of a plot to it, it's still pretty good. That's the great concept of this story that I definitely can recommend doing this. Now, this was, I believe, on the Go Shia Wiki and on the CJ March Wiki, which that's where I found the story. The story was absolutely amazing, to be completely honest. It was just flat out amazing. I definitely have to say. I really do think, even though the story didn't really have much of a plot to it, it's still very enjoyable, and that's definitely a good positive. I have to say that it is definitely still a good story, regards to the fact that the story didn't really make a whole lot of sense. And I'm gonna say right now that not every single funny pasta has to make a whole lot of sense, but it still actually works out very well with the story, with the whole episode in question or game in question. It actually worked out pretty interesting. That actually worked pretty amazing. And especially with the stories, having to go out in question. I definitely have to say, this story was absolutely amazing. Well done, well made, just flat out amazing. Like how everything went out. That's all I can definitely say. I do appreciate the good grammar that was used in the story, along with the sentence structuring, the storyline, and the flow of it. Although there are a few grammatical errors that do need to be fixed up. There's just a few of them in it that do need to be fixed up, but other than that, I can definitely say this story was actually pretty good regards to that. So I could definitely say right now that this story was actually pretty good. Regards to that, I definitely have to say right now that this story was actually really well made. There's definitely a lot of time and effort into it, even though this story didn't have really much of a plot to it, but it's still pretty good. That's definitely a good positive that I have to say, is that even though it didn't have much of a plot to it, it still worked out really well. And it still really much helped out with the story a lot better. So that's definitely a good positive that I have to say regards to this pasta. Anyways, with that being said, and like I'll always continue to say, that this is simply my own personal opinion, and if you disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these curry pastas or funny pastas, if you guys prefer to call it that, or gaming pastas, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of this story is getting a 10 out of 10. Even though it didn't make a whole lot of sense, it's still really amazing, really well done. It actually played out well with the whole concept and the whole episode in question, so that's definitely a very good positive that I'm giving this feedback with this story. That was just flat out amazing, really well done. Definitely a good concept. Yes, it did, I could definitely say, not all funny pastas have to make a whole lot of sense. That's definitely something I could definitely say. And I know not every single pasta has to have a plot to it, depending on what it is. That's another thing. But other than that, this story was flat out amazing, Ashley Armbruster. You did a really good job with the story. I hope you make more stories in the future. I like to see some of your other ones. Anyways, with that being said, what did you all think about this funny pasta? Or curry pasta, or gaming pasta, whatever you guys prefer to call it. Did you all enjoy it? Did you not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comments section down below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. And if you're brand new here to this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hybe if you're brand new here to my channels, because I upload new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload, so that you guys won't miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro, because I'm out of here. And I will be catching you all in the next video. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll be seeing you all in the next video. And as always, please roll the outro, because I'm out.